All right, very good. So we're looking at the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we are on the last couple of pages of chapter 27, which I don't remember the name of the chapter, but it's the chapter before At the Star Theater. And tonight we're at Jadu Malik's garden house meeting with Ramakrishna. So Jadu Malik had arrived at his garden house next to the Kali temple, right? Adar, too, had arrived from Calcutta, and he saluted Sri Ramakrishna. The master asked Latu to light the lantern and accompany him to Jadu's garden. Master to M, why didn't you bring Naren with you? M, shall I come with you? Master, do you want to come? Adar and the others are here. All right, you may come. Will the Mukherjees also come with us? To the Mukherjees, come along. Then we can leave Jadu Malik quickly. The master went to Jadu's drawing room. It was a well-furnished room and everything spick and span. The lamps were lighted, and Jadu was sitting with his friends and was playing with the children. Servants were in attendance. Smiling, Jadu welcomed Sri Ramakrishna, but he did not get up. He treated the master as a friend of long acquaintance. Jadu was a devotee of Gauranga. He had just seen a performance of Gauranga's life at the Star Theater and told the master about it. The master listened to his account joyfully and played with the children. M and the Mukherjee brothers sat near him. In the course of the conversation, Sri Ramakrishna told Jadu that Adar had not been able to secure the post of vice chairman of the Calcutta municipality. Jadu said that Adar was still young and could try for it again. At his request, the master sang a few songs about Gauranga. I love this idea about relationship, with God, with the divine, and just seeing it play here, that it mentions that Jadu doesn't get up to salute the master. Why? Because he considered the master a longtime friend. That wasn't necessary amongst friends, between friends. And so he sits there and he's talking to the master, and the master is perfectly happy. Is also not feeling any slight from it at all, enjoying the time. And I get such a relief from that because isn't that how God is? I sometimes get concerned. It was funny because I was just talking with another devotee earlier this afternoon about these purity ideas, that we get so caught up in, I dropped the flower, now I can't offer it, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff around, and I honor it because I get the idea. But I think that that's only the idea at the very beginning. Once you become friends, once you and God are on talking terms every day, you're sitting there hanging out in life together. There comes a time when you have to realize that that flower grew on the ground. That flower is made of dirt. It's made of mud and water and air and sunlight, you know, which is amazing. Look at the colors that mother can make out of dirt, water, and sunshine. It's pretty outrageous, actually. But so I really like there's two stories that I that I build my whole life around. One is the woman who picked a bowl of grapes to give to Krishna every day because she knew that her chosen ideal, her beloved, was going to come visit her at some point, but didn't know when. So for years, for decades, she picked a big bowl of grapes to offer to him in case he came that day. And she would take a bite out of every single grape to make sure that it was sweet enough to offer to Krishna. And so when Krishna finally does, is it Krishna or Ram?
Ram. That's a separate
Yeah, Ram.
story
Yeah,
for Sri Ram.
yeah. So it was for Ram. Sorry, it's my vacant head again. But so Ram shows up, and she brings out this big bowl, and is it Lakshmana sees that all of the grapes have a bite out of them, and he tells Ram, you don't eat that. Look, she's eaten. She's already eaten. And Ram was just like, just waves him off and says, "You know nothing. That she tasted each grape out of devotion to make sure it was the best one for me." And so whenever Shiva would yell at me for putting a knife on the wrong counter in the clean kitchen in the in the Hollywood monastery. I would always refer him to that story. I was like, I have the same deal that she had. I don't, I didn't sign that contract. I signed this contract over here, you know. And the second story is, when Mother is making that, taking the rice to the shrine to offer to Takor, and it drops and breaks on the ground. And she actually scolds Takor and says, "Oh, so this is how you want it to be. Well, if this is how you want it to be, this is how it is." And she scrapes the rice, off the ground, puts it back in another pot, and offers it to him and said, you threw it on the ground. You get rice that came from the ground. What can I do for you?" And to me, that is the ideal. The ideal is not to become a perfectly persnickety pure person in everything that you do in the shrine, because you're just always worried about that. Love has to overtake you at some point, and you can do all that persnickety stuff out of love, certainly. And if it comes naturally motivated by love, that's the ideal. But even better than that is just the sweetness of familiarity. That we come to the point with God where the fear is gone. Vivekananda makes a point of saying that religion starts in fear, but religion ends in love, pure love, right? And so that's where we want to go. It's like we use those rules at the beginning to keep our mind on God and to keep our mind remembering that this is something we should be spending quality time on with a quality effort toward. And that's at the beginning. After you get that going and you've been doing that for years, at some point, you've just got to get past all that gatekeeper stuff and just understand that God is with you everywhere. He has been intimately present for your entire life. And I doubt that that means he didn't see you do anything interestingly wrong or impure. He was there for all of it, and he's still fine. He's going on. You haven't shocked him yet. He hasn't thrown down a bolt of lightning on your head yet. So take the clue. He loves you deeply as you are, and all he's waiting for is for you to see how beautiful you are in that true state, in your non-deluded state, that you're not the ego that you're ashamed of. You're the Satchitananda that needs no shame. And that's what Ramakrishna sees when he looks at you, and that's what he wants you to see when you look at you, and what you know about yourself when you look at yourself. You're ever pure, ever free, beloved of God. You've never been born, you will never die. You know, you are love itself, wisdom itself, and you're sparkling and playing in being, right? That's all you're here to shine. That's all you're here to do. There's no purpose for your life because there is no life. There's only the moment. There's not enough space in a moment for a narrative. So there is no purpose because there's no cause and effect. So what are you here for? You're here to shine. You're here to shine Satchitananda. You're here to express a pure and wondrous love. You're here to act and learn from an infinite and abiding wisdom. You're here to be in bliss, joy, gladness, sweetness, and all of it flowing sweetly without a single plan in the mind. That's the purpose of life. That's what it is to be alive, to manifest God, to manifest your highest nature, and to have the best time ever doing it. To literally dance through this world, the pain, the suffering, the joy, the happiness, all of it the same. It's all an amazing experience, an amazing manifestation of one reality that's infinite and based in love. Of all the things it could be based in, it's based in love. How lucky are we for that? How beautiful is that? Anyway, I get caught up in that for a while. All right. So they're all going to go to Jadu Malik's house, and he's inviting the Mukherjees. He's invited M. So everybody's going. So everything is spick and span in Jadu's Malik's room. The lamps were lighted. Jadu was sitting with his friends and was playing with children. The servants were in attendance. Smiling, Jadu welcomed Sri Ramakrishna, but he did not get up. He treated the master as a friend of long acquaintance. Jadu was a devotee of Gauranga, right? And so the master sings him a few songs. After the music was over, the Mukherjees were about to take their leave. The master, too, was ready to go, but he was in an ecstatic mood, right? So that ecstatic mood, I mean, that's when he literally is forgetting that he's a body, or no, not forgetting. See how we talk about that? Just shows my delusion immediately. He forgot that he was a body. No, that's not it at all. He knew he wasn't a body, and he let it go for a minute, and I thought he forgot it. He didn't forget it. He let it go because he's not the body. So he's in this ecstatic state where he's just feeling and experiencing a love from his divine mother that has no limitation, no requirement of it. And he knows this deeply, intimately, experientially through his whole being. So he's at the point when he thinks of the Divine Mother, he leaves the body, he leaves this world behind. He's just so detached, so undiluted. So he's in an ecstatic mood. It's time to go, but he's sort of having a little bit of problems because he's going into samadhi and he can't. I can't, man. I just would love to have seen this, just everything going on. On coming to the porch, he goes into samadhi. So he was in ecstatic mood. They managed to get him to the porch, and now he's gone into samadhi, you know. The gatekeeper of the garden house was a pious man. Now and then he invited the master to his house and fed him. Sri Ramakrishna stood there in samadhi, and the gatekeeper fanned him with a large fan. Ratan, the master of the garden house, saluted the master, and Sri Ramakrishna, returning to the consciousness of the relative world, greeted the manager and the gatekeeper, saying Narayana, a name of God. Beautiful. Then, accompanied by the devotees, he went back to the temple garden through the main gate. The master, to the Mukherjees, pointing to M, please visit him often. Mukherjee smiling, yes, henceforth he will be our teacher. So see, the Mukherjees caught it right away. Knew exactly what the master was saying. The master, it is the nature of the hemp smoker to make merry in the company of another hemp smoker. He will not talk even to an amir, but he will embrace a wretched hemp smoker if he happens to meet one. Everyone laughs, right? Everybody knows, you know, potheads love each other, love to see each other. It was about 9 o'clock, and the Mukherjee brothers saluted the master and went away. Adhar and M sat on the floor in the master's room while he talked to Adhar about Rakal. Rakal was staying in Vrindavan with Balaram. The master had learned from a letter about Rakal's illness. He was so worried about him that 2 or 3 days earlier he had wept before Hazra like a child. Adar had sent a registered letter to Rakal, but had received no reply. The master to Adhar, Naran has received a letter from Vrindavan. Why haven't you received a reply to yours? Adar, I haven't yet heard anything from Vrindavan. Master, M has also received a letter from Vrindavan. They began to talk of Sri Ramakrishna's seeing a play at the Star Theatre about the life of Gauranga. The master smiling. Jadu told me that one could see the play very well from a 1 rupee seat. Very cheap. Once we were talking about going to Panahati. Jadu wanted me to go in a country boat with a whole crowd of passengers. Everyone laughs. Formerly, he liked to hear a little about God, but I don't see Jadu now much nowadays. He is always surrounded by flatterers. They've spoiled him. He is a man of very calculating nature. I would no sooner set foot in his house than he would ask me, how much is the carriage hire? I would say, oh, you don't have to bother about it. You may give 2 or 2.5 rupees. That would keep him quiet. Everyone laughs. It was late, and Hadar was about to depart. The master asked M to bring Naren with him. You just see that whole interaction there. You just see how well everybody knows each other, right? And how it's just a group of friends coming together. That's true Sangha. Sangha doesn't mean a church congregation. It doesn't mean you're, a certain set. Sangha means friendship. I mean, it's non-attached friendship, of course, but it's our holy company. We are, yeah. This is what it should be. Just a group of people who is dedicated to deeply caring for each other and living accordingly. Yes. All right. Chapter 28. At the Star Theater. It's Friday, September 19th, 1884. Boy, that's something that's just really put me in a mood, just thinking about Sangha like that. I really feel starry-eyed just with the idea of what that ideal really would be if for us as a group of seekers together to have the connection of the direct disciples of Jesus or the direct disciples like we're seeing here of Ramakrishna, where we're just always inviting each other along and, oh, why don't you come? Oh, yes, let's go here. Hey, have you done this? Have you seen him? You should hang out with him more. You know, just really truly enjoying the company of being with people, like-minded people like that. It was Mahalaya, a sacred day of the Hindus and the day of the new moon. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room with Mahendra Mukherjee, Priya Mukherjee, M, Baburam, Harish, Kishori, and Latu. Some were sitting on the floor, and some were standing, and others were moving about. Hazra was sitting on the porch. Rakal was still at Vrindavan with Balaram. The master to the devotees. I was at the captain's house in Calcutta. It was very late when I returned. What a sweet nature Captain has. What devotion. He performs the arati before the image. First, he waves a lamp with 3 lights, and then a lamp with 1 light. And last of all, he waves burning camphor. When performing the worship, he does not speak. Once he motioned to me to take my seat. During the worship, his eyes become swollen from a spiritual emotion. They look as if they had been stung by wasps. He cannot sing, but he chants hymns beautifully. In his mother's presence, he sits on a lower level. She sits on a higher stool. His father was a havildar of the English army. He would hold a gun with one hand and with the other worship Shiva. His servant made a clay image of Shiva for him. He wouldn't even touch water before performing the worship. He earned 6,000 rupees a year. Captain sends his mother to Benares now and then. 12 or 13 servants attend her there. It is very expensive. Captain knows the Vedanta, the Gita, and the Bhagavata by heart. Wow, listen to that. The captain, he's just a devotee. He's not a monk or a swami or anything. And he knows the Vedanta, the Gita, and the Bhagavata by heart. He's got them memorized. Wow. Those are some big works. That's incredible. He says that the educated gentlemen of Calcutta follow the ways of the Mlechas. Yes, I imagine that was true. Mlechas, of course, most of you know, it's somebody with no caste, which is, of course, from inside the system, the worst thing you could be. If you're not in the system, it's not really that big of a deal, but from within the system, it's a huge deal. In his earlier years, he practiced Hatha Yoga. That is why he strokes my head gently when I'm in samadhi. His wife, though, there's another image. Look at that. That also says something about the captain, because Ramakrishna in samadhi, if there was any impurity in you at all, you couldn't touch him. It would cause him great pain, in that state, in his samadhi. And so to have the captain able to rub his head, says a lot about the captain's character, that he could, be that physically intimate with Ramakrishna while Ramakrishna was in samadhi. That's really something. That's why he strokes my head gently when I'm in samadhi. His wife worships the deity in another form, that of Gopala. This time I didn't find her so miserly. She too knows the Gita and other scriptures. What devotion they have. They cooked a goat curry. Captain said they could eat it for 15 days, but she said, no, only 7 days. But I liked the taste of it. They serve a very small quantity of each dish, but nowadays they give me good portions, since I eat more than they do. After the meal, the captain or his wife fans me. Okay. I'm not going to make a point of it, but there's Ramakrishna eating chicken or eating goat. Eating goat curry. Actually, that's his favorite meal. He's quoted. I think it's in chapter 3. One time I knew the page number because I used to battle my vegetarian brothers all the time. Where Ramakrishna says his favorite dish was the captain's goat curry made by the captain's wife. They are very pious souls, and they show great respect to holy men. The people of Upper India are greatly devoted to sadhus. The sons and nephews of the young Bahadar of Nepal once visited the temple garden. Before me, they showed great respect and humility. Once a young girl of Nepal came to see me with Captain. She was a great devotee and unmarried. She knew the whole of the Gita Govinda by heart. Dwaraka Babu and the others wanted to hear her music. When she sang the Gita Govinda, Dwaraka Babu was profoundly moved and wiped the tears from his eyes with his handkerchief. She was asked why she was not married. She said, "I am the handmaid of God. Whom else shall I serve?" Her people respect her as a goddess, as the scriptures enjoin. To Mahendra, Mukherjee, and the others, I shall feel very happy to know that you are being benefited by your visits here. Why do you people come here? I don't know much of reading and writing. M. God's power is in you. That is why there is such a power of attraction. It is the divine spirit that attracts. Master, yes. This is the attraction of Yoga Maya, the divine Shakti. She casts the spell. God performs all his Leela through the help of Yoga Maya. The love of the gopis was like the attachment of a woman to her paramour. They were intoxicated with ecstatic love for Sri Krishna. A woman cherishing illicit love is not very keen about her own husband. If she is told that her husband has come, she will say, "Oh, what if he has? There's food in the kitchen for him. He can help himself." But if she is told of the arrival of a stranger, jovial, handsome, and witty, well, she'll run to see him and peep at him from behind the screen. You may raise an objection and say, "We have not seen God. How can we feel attracted to him as the gopis felt attracted to Krishna?" But it is possible. I do not know him. I've only heard his name, and that has fixed my name upon him. Right? So it is possible to have that kind of love for God because it's not a gas, it's not an imagined thing. You know, at the beginning of our practice, it feels so much like that. It feels like God is just this made up imaginary friend that we're going to hang out with as adults, and there's that weird feeling around that for a while. Because in the beginning, for the most part, it's true for most of us, right? We're just going along, doing our best. There's something in us that tells us it's true, but it all seems like we really have to work hard at seeing it and understanding it. And that's true in the beginning because our mind wanders so much and we have so many narratives running in the mind. And the mind is constantly describing the world to us. We're never experiencing things without an opinion. But when you go through your life of practice and you start to drop your opinions and you stop hooking on every sensual reminder or experience that goes through the body, and you run into some silence inside, then you see the real. Then you see things, not see things. It's not even a matter of seeing. I'm not talking about oovy groovy here. I'm telling you that our spiritual life is about seeing what is real. It's not about mapping something spiritual on a material world. That's not what we're doing. We're looking at the material world close enough to see that it's not. And then we're sitting in silence and letting ourselves experience it without opinion, without narrative. And then we know its nature. And that nature can't be spoken. That nature is infinite. That nature is paradoxical. But it is based and rooted in a love that has no limit, no possible way of being understood because of its infinity. Right? And so Ramakrishna is telling us you can fall in love with God, as much as you can fall in love with something that's in the room with you. because in the truth of it, at the end of the day, you will see him in the room with you. You will see that he is the room, that he is you, that he's everything. Right? A devotee, sir, what is the significance of Sri Krishna's stealing the gopis' clothes? Master, oh, there are 8 fetters that bind a person to the world. The gopis were free from all but one, shame. Therefore, Krishna freed them from that one too by taking away their clothes. On attaining God, one gets rid of all the fetters. To Mahendra Mukherjee and the others, by no means all people feel attracted to God. There are special souls who feel so. To love God, one must be born with good tendencies. Otherwise, why should you alone of all the people of Bagbazar come here? You can't expect anything good in a dunghill. The touch of the Malaya breeze turns all trees into sandalwood, no doubt. But there are a few exceptions, the banyan, the cotton tree, and the aswata, for example. To the Mukherjee brothers, you are well off. If a man slips from the path of yoga, then he is reborn in a prosperous family and starts again his spiritual practice for the realization of God. Mahendra, why does one slip from the path of yoga? Master, while thinking of God, the aspirant may feel a craving for material enjoyment. It is this craving that makes him slip from the path. In his next life, he will be born with the spiritual tendencies that he failed to translate into action in his present life. Ah, there's a, if you're someone who's counting on the next life, there's there's a wonderful promise right there. That you'll be born, the things that you're trying to attain but fail in this life, if you're going to be born again and have another life, you'll be born with those tendencies. So you'll get a boost, right? So keep your faith alive. Don't, of course, the ideal is just don't think about having to do anything. Just keep your eyes on God. Really just keep your attention on the presence. Don't worry about the narratives your mind will make up about when you're going to realize or not realize and what needs to be done or doesn't need to be done, because all of that is story. None of it's necessary. You're free this moment if you choose it. We just have to discern sincerely enough and deeply enough to choose it. Right? So that's all. Mahendra, then what is the way? Master, no salvation is possible for a man as long as he has desire, as long as he hankers for worldly things. Therefore, fulfill all your desires regarding food, clothes, and sex. Smiling. What do you say about the last one? he's being saucy here. Is it legitimate or illegitimate? M and Mahendra laugh, right? They're laughing like boys in the locker room there. It is not good to cherish desires and hankerings, right? And what does he mean by that? It's not good to cherish, right? To be fond of your desires and hankerings, right? He says it's not good to be fond of them. They should be a thing that you're very sober about, right? It's not good to cherish desires and hankerings, right? Because you have to do your discernment and understand that it's your desires and hankerings that are ruining your life, right? It's your desires and hankerings that are preventing you from being the lover you want to be, from being the unselfish person that you've always wanted to be. It's what has stopped you and disallowed you from experiencing freedom, from experiencing a depth of relationship with the universe around you. It's your desires and hankerings that have given you this awful feeling of separateness, of smallness, right? Don't forget that that's what these things do to you. And learn to not cherish them. Learn to understand their nature so that you can let go of them. It is not good to cherish desires and hankerings. For that reason, I used to fulfill whatever desires came to my mind. Once I saw some colored sweetmeats at Burra Bazaar and wanted to eat them. They brought me the sweets and I ate a great many. The result was that I fell ill. In my boyhood days, while bathing in the Ganges, I saw a boy with a gold ornament around his waist. Holding my During my state of divine intoxication, I felt a desire to have a similar ornament myself. I was given one, but I couldn't keep it on very long. When I put it on, I felt within my body the painful uprush of the current of a current of air. It was because I had touched gold to my skin. I wore the ornament for a few moments and then had to put it aside. Otherwise, I should have had to tear it off. I once felt a desire to eat the famous sweetmeats of different cities. Everybody laughs. I had a desire to hear Sambu's musical recital of the Chandi. After fulfilling that desire, I wanted to hear the same thing by Rajnarayan. That desire was also satisfied. At that time, many holy men used to visit the temple garden. A desire arose in my mind that there should be a separate storeroom to supply them with their provisions. Mathur Babu arranged for one. The sadhus were given foodstuffs, fuel, and the like from that storeroom. Once the idea came to me to put on a very expensive robe embroidered with gold and to smoke a silver hubble bubble. I could just I could just see Thakur walking around carrying his hubble bubble and this gold embroidered cloth thrown around his neck. It was like seeing Swami Prabhupada in a suit. That first picture that I saw when he first arrived in the United States, because when I knew him, I never saw him out of ochre. He was only in his robes for the entire 15 years that I knew him. But there was a picture in his room of the day when he arrived in San Francisco and was being let into the car, and he had a three-piece suit on. It was the funniest looking thing I'd ever seen in my life. He looked so completely uncomfortable, completely out of his water, out of his nature in that suit. It was just like you could hardly bear to see him standing there tied up in that suit. You know, I could see Ramakrishna here in the exact same way, putting on a fancy shawl and a big hubble bubble hanging out of his mouth. I put on the robe and I also smoked the hubble bubble in various fashions. Sometimes I smoked it reclining in this way, and sometimes I leaned over and did it this way, and sometimes with my head up, and sometimes with my head down. Then I said to myself, "Oh, mind, this is what they call smoking a silver hubble bubble." Immediately I renounced it. I kept the robe on my body a few minutes longer and then took it off. I began to trample it underfoot and to spit on it, saying, "So this is an expensive robe, but it only increases a man's rajas," right? And a man's restlessness and a man's ego, right? A person's ego. So you see, whenever he would fulfill his desires, he said here, it's good for you to fulfill your desires. But how do you fulfill them? Not by cherishing them and relishing them, not by sitting there and thinking, oh, I love this glass of wine, that flavor, oh, no, that's a good vintage. I have to look and see, who was the vintner. Not to cherish it like that, but taste it and see what is actually the experience of this. How does it feel? Right? You have a glass of wine. You finish the glass of wine. You have another glass of wine. You take the whole experience into account, because by taking the whole experience into an account, you'll come to know that it doesn't give you what it promises. And the little bit of distraction that it affords you, which is the only thing that it can actually give you, is distraction. That little bit of distraction burns off very quickly and leaves you sitting in the exact same place as before you had the glass of wine. So it literally does nothing for you. And if you don't get that message, if the message is, oh, I need more wine, or the message is I need to do it more often so that it will last longer, then you're in trouble, right? That's the downward spiral, and we all can see where that goes. And so it's not that God doesn't want us to do our favorite things. He wants us to do the things that will bring us to our bliss, that will bring us to contentment, that will bring us to dignity, that will bring us to stability, that will bring us to earnestness and sincerity. And so when we fulfill our desires, we do it by watching the whole thing. I remember I used to like to go out to eat all the time, and I used to like to go get some French fries and fried chicken. And so I would go down to Safeway and buy myself a couple of pieces of fried chicken and some French fries at the deli. and I'd go hide behind the boathouse down on down on the bay, because I just knew the nuns would be out walking if they saw me having my fried chicken and French fries. I'd be in big trouble. So I'd sit out there and I would eat it, but I would pay attention, pay attention. And I came to know that actually, I know. Oh my God. I still love fried chicken. That's why I'm laughing. It's like, even though I know it makes me feel horrible and that there's always a slight feeling when I've had it, of heaviness in the body and stuff, I still like it. That's why I'm laughing, because mother's like, really? You're going to give that example? And she's just sitting there, like crossing her arms, like, okay, go ahead, rolling her eyes at me, like, yeah, okay. So that's why it's hard for me to say it out loud like that. But that's how it is. We have to fulfill our desires, but you have to discern. You have to do it with sobriety and watch closely. What is the full experience of fulfilling this desire? Does it fulfill me? How long does that fulfillment last? Does it affect what I need the next time? Do I want more? Am I going to be more particular? Because that's my experience with desires, is that the more you fulfill a desire, the harder they become to fulfill, because your desire keeps getting more and more specific. If you like coffee, at first just powdered coffee will be fine for you. But by the time you finish that, you'll be looking from a particular bean pooped out of a particular elephant in some particular region of Africa, picked up and put into a bag by a certain company and sent to you and bought at a certain store by a certain proprietor that you've come to trust and love, and it's $400 a pound. That's where desires go in this world. The more you do something, the more with whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's knitting. Uh, I always tease my one of my friends. He took up knitting, and at first, we would just go down and he was buying secondhand sweaters and taking the yarn off of them, cutting them and then pulling the yarn out and using that yarn uh, to re knit a new sweater of his own design that he wanted to do. But nowadays, he has an alpaca farm up in Marin that he likes to go and visit to pick out a particular alpaca that has a particular color and type of wool on it. And he has them shave it down, and he takes that and has that spun into wool and the whole 9 yards. He did the same thing with tea. It's like he likes drinking tea, and now he has a particular China tea farmer in China that sends him raw leaves that he ages in his tea aging room in his house now. This is where desire goes. This is where it goes. And you will be so enslaved if you give it its way. By the end of your life, you will have so many requirements for what glass of wine you need, for what piece of chicken and how it's cooked and who cooked it, because your desires get more and more demanding as you go along, and you become you just it becomes obvious that we are slaves to these things, right? So do them, yes, but do them with an education, with understanding, and see and follow the master's example. See that it doesn't give what it promises. See that it doesn't last, and then renounce it. Renounce it. Rakal had been staying at Vrindavan with Balaram. At first, he had written excited letters in praising the holy place. He had written to M. It's the best of all places. Please come here. The peacocks dance around, and one always hears and sees religious music and dancing. There's an unending flow of divine bliss. But then Rakal had been laid up with an attack of fever. Sri Ramalrishna was very much worried about him and vowed to worship the Divine Mother for his recovery. So he began to talk about Rakal. Master, Rakal had his first religious ecstasy while sitting here massaging my feet. A Bhagavata scholar had been expounding the sacred book in the room. As Rakal listened to his words, he shuddered every now and then. Then he became altogether still. His second ecstasy was at Balaram Bose's house. In that state, he could not keep himself sitting upright. He lay flat on the floor. Rakal belongs to the realm of the personal God. He leaves the place if one talks about the impersonal. I have taken a vow to worship the Divine Mother when he recovers. You see, he has renounced his home and relatives and completely surrendered himself to me. It was I who sent him to his wife now and then. He still had a little desire for enjoyment. Pointing to M. Rakal has written him from Vrindavan that it is a grand place, the peacocks dance around. Now let the peacocks take care of him. He has really put me in a fix. Rakal has been staying with Balaram at Vrindavan. Ah, what a nice nature Balaram has. It is only for my sake that he doesn't go to Orissa, where his family owns an estate. His brother stopped his monthly allowance and wrote to him, "Come and stay with us here. Why should you waste so much money in Calcutta?" But he didn't listen. He has been living in Calcutta because he wants to see me. What a devotion to God. He's busy day and night with his worship. His gardener is always making garlands of flowers for the deity. He has decided to spend 4 months a year at Vrindavan to reduce his expenses. He gets a monthly allowance of 200 rupees. Why am I so fond of the youngsters? They are still untouched by lust and greed. I find that they belong to the class of Nitya Siddhas, the ever perfect. When Narendra first came here, he was dressed in dirty clothes, but his eyes and face betokened some inner stuff. At that time, he did not know many songs. He sang only one or two. Let us go back once more, O mind, to our own abode. And, O Lord, must all my days pass by so utterly in vain? Whenever he came here, I would talk only with him, though the room was filled with people. He would say to me, "Please talk to them," and then I would talk to the others. I became mad for the sight of him, and wept for him in Jadu Malik's garden house. I wept here, too, holding Bolanath's hand. Bolanath said, "Sir, you shouldn't behave that way for a mere Kayasta boy." One day the fat Brahmin said to me about Narendra with folded hands, "Sir, he has very little education. Why should you be so restless for him?" Bhavanath and Narendra are a pair. They're like a man and a woman. So I asked Bhavanath to rent a house near Narendra's. Both of them belong to the realm of formless reality. This is one thing I'm noticing as I'm reading along here. Master always has something nice to say. Whenever he's thinking about somebody, oh, he has such nice devotion. Oh, he's got this. Oh, he's got that, in these nice ways. Of course, when he also will mention some of their shortcomings. Like the person who was a bit miserly and always wanted to know how much the cab fare is. But even then, he when he talks about that, it's not in a judgy sort of way. He always mentions it sort of with a tongue-in-cheek, sort of playful joking about it. He always makes people laugh over it. So it's like he doesn't get hung up on it. He just pokes a little fun out of it because he knows, oh, see, that's a delusion. That's a delusion there. And he'll just sort of tickle it. Why? Because that'll put the person's awareness on it. And if you put your awareness on those shortcomings, they go away. Because your awareness is the light of Satchitananda, the light of love and wisdom. And so just simply by being aware of your fault, just lay it down before Mother and surrender it and move on. It will go away in time. It's not yours to get rid of it. It's Mother to take it from you. So let her take it. That's all. You be aware of it and let Mother take it. I forbid the youngsters to spend a long time with women or visit them too frequently. He's talking to his male disciples, obviously. Haripada had fallen into the clutches of a woman of the Goshpara sect. She shows maternal feeling for him, but Haripada is a child and doesn't understand its real meaning. The women of that sect act that way when they see young boys. I understand that Haripada lies on her lap and that she feeds him with her own hands. I shall tell him that this is not good. This very maternal feeling leads to a downfall. The women of that sect practice spiritual discipline in the company of men. They regard men as Krishna. A teacher of that sect asks a woman devotee, "Have you found your Krishna?" And she says, "Yes, I have found my Krishna." The other day, that woman came here. I watched the way that she looked around, and I didn't approve of it. I said to her, "You may treat Haripada any way that you like, but don't have any wrong feelings for him." The youngsters are now in the stage of sadhana. They are aspirants. For them, the only thing now is renunciation. A sannyasi must not look even at the portrait of a woman. I say to them, don't sit beside a woman and talk to her, even if she is a devotee. You may say a word or two to her standing. Even a perfect soul must follow this precept for his own protection and also to set an example to others. When women come to me, I too say to them after a few minutes, "Oh, go and visit the temples." If they don't get up, then I myself leave the room. Others will learn from my example. All right. And we're going to stop there for the day.